April 2nd, 2007. This is Passover or preparations for Passover, and going to get Mom making her her excellent matzo balls. Here is the recipe, and she's going to put it back into the plastic so that she doesn't get
schmutz on it. Schmutz on it. The word is schmutz.
So
we're going to put it back in its nice little plastic bag and zip it up so that it stays pretty clean. Okay, we start with 4 eggs, which we're going to separate. Okay. I'm going to put them, get the whites in there, I guess. Put the whites in here, get it right the first time. Whoops, we got a little bit of yolk in the white. However, I don't think that that's crucial because we're not making meringue. If you make a meringue and you want it, you can do whatever, but here we could live with it. It'll beat up pretty well anyway. Okay. I'm going to separate 4 eggs, in which we keep getting yolk in.
And you've said that that's the separating the eggs is part of your success for getting floaters,
right,
rather
yes,
than sinkers.
Right, because you get a nice fluffy white, which we'll see after a while. Unfortunately, the eggs are not separated too easily because I'm wrapping them on the side of a plastic bowl, which is not as effective as a metal or glass bowl, but I have the plastic ones handy. Okay.
That one's doing a little better.
Yes. Whoops. Okay, now that's fine. All right. So now we have 4 eggs in a bowl, and the next step calls to beat the yolks with the chicken fat until they're, you know, the recipe, back over there. The recipe calls for fat. It doesn't specify what kind of fat, although, you know.
They were probably thinking schmaltz.
Well, yeah, and, you know, this is, however, what I do, since my soup is already made, is I just got my tablespoon here, and I'm heading over to the soup pot, and I'm going to skim off the top of the soup, which gives me 4 tablespoons of, you know, fattish sort of soup liquid, and it works quite nicely.
And we already had some of the soup chicken for lunch, and it was delicious.
So since I skim off the fat anyway, and you know, the liquid here doesn't really hurt it very much. So we then knead the...
Oh, I believe that I must have picked the wrong battery because it's complaining. So I'm going to stop this for a moment, and you can continue. And
yeah, I'm just going to beat this up.
Okay.
Egg whites, and really, if you use regular fat, it's not nearly as thin as this, but it seems to work out okay. Now I need a measuring cup for 1.5 cups of matzo meal. Which is a little awkward because I have to dip the measuring cup in, so I'm doing 1/4 cup at a time.
It's okay. Dad was using your cup measure to eat Cheerios.
He does every day, all the time. That one is dedicated to Cheerios. Okay, let me not lose count here.
That's your second.
No, that was the first. This is the second.
Right.
Okay, right. So that's 1 cup. Okay, and we need, now this is 1/4 cup. That's only 1/2 cup in there. So we need 3. Okay, 4. That's 1 cup. And now we need 2 more to make
Cup and a half.
1.5 cups of the matzo meal. And then we blend it. Now the recipe calls for salt, but since I use my own soup, which is plenty salty, I don't add any salt to this.
Where did that recipe come from?
It came from a little book, which I still have, the reason I transcribed it to this was because the book is really schmutzy and falling apart. But it's a little book of, little paperback book of recipes for all kinds of Jewish holidays. Okay, so now I'm mixing the matzo meal and the egg yolks and fat together. And it's a really thick, disgusting sort of thing here.
Did your mother make matzo balls?
You know, it's interesting, but all the years of my growing up, we went to my grandmother's for one Seder, and to my Aunt Annie's for the second Seder. My mother didn't really make very many Seders over the years. My mother did Thanksgiving, but Seders were not. We were usually invited someplace. My Aunt Annie made very famous matzo balls, which were real sinkers. They were like lead. My Aunt Annie's Seders used to go on forever. We went to the Bronx for them. So it was really quite an excursion.
Was that Grandpa's sister?
This Aunt Annie was Grandpa's sister, yes. Grandpa had 3 sisters, Ethel, Annie, and Ruth, and 1 brother, Louis.
For whom I'm named.
Yes. Okay, now the next piece of this calls for a cup of either hot water or a cup of soup. And the reason I wait until my soup is done is that I like to make it with the soup. So it's pretty hot because I just took it off the, I think the original recipe called for some parsley, but I don't bother because it is some parsley in the soup. So we get little bits of green. Anyway, I'm going to heat the soup just a teeny bit because it's pretty hot, but we want it a little bit hotter. So we'll do it for about 40 seconds. Should make it hot enough. And this is at this point like mud. The mixture of the fat and the matzo meal and the egg yolks. Pour the soup on and it becomes nicer. I'm about to get out of whisk. Move my whisks to over here. And my egg beater, because I can't whisk it all that long. So the sheet on this. Start whisking this now, because that's the next step, is the egg whites. Getting it into a nice thing. Okay, the soup is hot enough, maybe even a little too hot, it doesn't matter. And we pour the hot soup into the matzo meal mixture here, and we mix it up nicely. Mash it a little bit with a fork. And get it all blended. This could probably be done with a mixer, but I've never done this with any kind of mechanical mixer at all. I think it's part of the secret is that it's all done by hand. You know, as in the olden days when everything was done by hand, especially at Passover, because you couldn't use your regular mixers and stuff. I think my mother had separate beaters and bowls for her mix master for Passover. finished. My mother did used to make a really great sponge cake for Passover, which my brother still remembers with great pleasure, but it was a really excellent sponge cake because it was made with not too much matzo meal and lots of egg whites beaten up.
Whereas my mother made the Manischewitz mixes.
I don't even have any of those this year.
They're just awful.
Yeah, I know,
Except for the ones with the coffee cakes with the cinnamon toppings. The toppings were good. The rest of the
Yeah,
cakes.
well, I really don't bother.
No,
I
it's-
don't buy
it's-
any of those. Used to buy this muffin mix occasionally. I don't buy any of those.
Yeah, it's all terrible.
And all the desserts are awful except for the Barton's chocolate, which Marjorie is bringing later.
Oh, good.
And I have those silly marshmallows and the fruit slices.
The fruit slice. Everybody loves the fruit slices.
I only bought 2 boxes, but, whatever. I don't care if it all goes at the Seder. And since we only have one Seder, well, we have sort of half-assed one time. I usually have one Seder these days, so. Okay, now I'm going to you need really good wrists for this, which I don't have anymore. So I do a kind of a double idea as long as I can stand it. And then it's starting to roll. And I give a and my steel bowls are probably better for this, but it's okay.
I can tilt it if that. No, I
What?
guess I was gonna say I could tilt it, but I guess that wouldn't be a good idea.
No, it's fine. Get it to a nice foamy consistency, and then I'll whisk it a little bit more to add a little more volume. The hand egg beater works pretty well, but the year I did this recipe for the first time was funny because it was Dad's family that came to the first Seder that I did this for. And I was so excited with these matzo balls that were so gorgeous and they floated around in the soup. And I couldn't get over it and I kept exclaiming over my wonderful matzo balls and they all sat there like, so what? Dad says, this time my family doesn't really care about those things, which was true. I think Grandpa Perry was probably not around for that. Certainly, Arthur and Julie were kind friends. Grandma said he was never impressed by anything. Except she thought I picked good melons. Oh, she liked my salmon too. Good poached salmon. By and large,
I once heard she complimented you on your brisket the same way by cooking it a long time.
It wasn't the same recipe. I had her recipe, which I never really, well, I did. I guess I couldn't try her recipe. But I do. I cook it for a long time. I did.
But she was complimenting herself at the same time. She was complimenting you.
That was her way of doing things, yes. She couldn't give a whole total compliment without giving herself a pat on the back. That very existence, which is a trademark. It's almost good enough. Needs to form soft peaks, not quite. Mavens tell you when you're separating eggs that you get a little bit of yolk in it, you have to throw it away. But I've never quite believed that, and I managed to get it on the tail. I don't see it. Well, then maybe a little seared yolk here. It doesn't seem to affect it as much as the mayonnaise. We got soft peaks? Yeah, we got soft peaks. Okay, run it all off there. And let me make sure that this stuff is all unlumped. Okay, I might add a drop or two of matzo to this. I guess it'll be okay. It's a little soft. I'm going to sprinkle just a bit more matzo in it because it seems slightly liquidy, which may be from the liquid nature of the fat. A little more matzo. And that's not measured out, it's just poured in, and that you have to judge the consistency of it. If it's too wet, then they fall apart. They don't float. So we're going to refrigerate it, and that helps to solidify it a little bit.
Well, I'm sure the longer it sits, the longer the matzo absorbs the
sure.
liquid.
Yeah, and it's been sitting for this couple of minutes absorbing theoretically while I'm whisking. And, you know, I can tell from the look of it that it's slightly, you know, that's the one thing about following the recipe exactly. Sometimes it's not quite, and you have to judge, but that's long experience will tell you these things. But I think that the reason it's loose is because I'm not using solid fat, I use liquid fat. Sometimes even after it's been refrigerated, when I take it out, it looks a little softish. I'll throw in a little bit more matzo meal, but it's better to do it at this point if you okay, maybe just a tad more there.
How would you describe the way it feels when you're... How should it feel?
Oh, it should have a little resistance to it when you mix it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, I could tell from the look of it that it wasn't quite right because there seemed to be a little liquid around the edges. But once it's right, there's some resistance when you mix it. It's like oatmeal. You know, the consistency is sort of that of a good stiff oatmeal. Okay, all the lumps are out, and now we will fold the whites in. Just dump the whites on the top. Okay, I'm going to do this with a plastic spatula. Gosh, too many tools here. Okay, plastic spatula is good for folding rather than a metal spoon. Because it folds a bit nicely, and the idea is to fold, not mix, just to slowly incorporate the whites into the matzo meal mixture. Slowly, we're not in a rush. Do this nicely. I'm going to actually put it back into that bowl when it's done because I don't have a lot of room in the refrigerator and a smaller bowl works better.
What else are you making for the Seder tonight?
Well, as soon as I'm finished with this little jobby here, I'm going to put a turkey in the oven.
But it's an itty-bitty turkey, right?
Well, it's only, it's 12 pounds or less, which is a little turkey. It's a small turkey. And I have brisket, which is sitting on the stove at this very moment, having been oven cooked for about 2.5 hours. And then I put it on the top of the stove, add some more onions and a little kosher wine to it. And that gives it a nice flavor, which everybody likes. And I also have a couple of lamb shanks, which I really cook the lamb shanks in order to have the shank bone for the Seder plate. But anybody who wants lamb shanks, welcome to it.
I think your brother especially likes those, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And so that's all been cooked and will be reheated at the time of the Seder. We have, for appetizers, beforehand, we have hummus and chopped liver and some vegetarian chopped liver, which I made a couple of days ago, so it marinates itself nicely. Okay, this is nicely incorporated now.
And how would you describe this texture?
Well, this is looser than the, than the texture of but it tightens up as it chills. The recipe calls for chilling it for half an hour, but I like longer if I can do it. And then we're going to videotape the actual later.
Yes.
Yes. So when I actually get around to it, you'll see the difference in the consistency when I take it out of the fridge. It becomes again more oatmeal-like. But I'm going to. Oh, yeah.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pouring it into the smaller bowl because it needs the bigger bowl in order to mix it up properly, but we only need a small bowl full for the refrigerator. These matzo balls will be eaten instantly. There will not be any left in the soup. There will be soup left over, but not matzo balls. Anyway, okay.
There are 10 people coming tonight?
There were 10 people, but I think there were really only 7 eaters.
Well, but Samantha, even though she's not much of an eater of other things, she'll have 3 or 4 matzo balls.
Yes, right. That will fill her up. She won't want anything else. So.
And you also made a carrot pudding and a vegetable
pudding. Carrot
pudding.
pudding and vegetable pudding, which recipes are in this if we want to videotape them too. Well, I guess it's not necessary.
No.
Those are standard recipes, which I do every year. The vegetable is a vegetable medley of lots of different vegetables.
Although you forgot the parsnips.
Well, I forgot the parsnips this year, but the soup benefited because I had extra parsnips for the soup. Okay. Okay. Now, that's pretty, whoops, we got a little left over here. We don't lose any. Okay.
Okay, well, we will return in a few hours to watch the actual molding of the knedlach.
The souping of the knedlach. Okay, just making sure I get all this egg white that was on the edge of the bowl and cook it properly. Wipe off the edge of the bowl and put its lid on it and put it in the fridge until later.
Okay.
And we'll see the difference in the consistency. And it's only 3 o'clock. I even have time to check my email.
Okay.
Being a modern ballabuster, as the term is, That was Grandma said, who really didn't appreciate anybody being a ballabuster. She thought I was one, and it was not, never meant in an appreciative manner. And I started to teach. Oh, you still have
Sure, as long as you're as long as you're talking.
Yeah, right. When I began to teach special ed, she sneered at that because it wasn't intellectual enough for her. The fact that I had, an English major. teach you English beforehand to make a dent, you know. Stupid people teach special ed.
Okay, we will return later.
Okay, in the frigid for you. Where in the frigid for you, though? Yes, we can take these out. They don't have to stay there.
Okay.
Ice cubes are very helpful. Okay.
I'm gonna be quiet.
No, you're.
Okay. All right, no, I'm trying to video and I'm talking into the video. Okay. Now, the best way to do this is to get your hands very cold with the ice cube. You use a spoon, but hands help a lot because you can spoon it out. Woo! Boy, there's too much. They're going to roll there. Okay. And then we just take them very lightly. Don't roll them much. Okay. As little as possible.
Personally, I think that's the secret to the floaters is that
Right,
you,
it's the
you don't
handling
handle
as
them.
little
You
as
don't
possible.
you don't
And
mash them
cube
down.
To keep your hand very cold. And I barely roll it. Barely. I think that the separated egg helps too. You can use that even in a mix, is to separate the eggs. They're floating already. Okay. Good ones. Good ones.
How many hits do you think she'll get?
Telling Jim before the first time I did this, I made the Seder was for Richard's family, and they were totally unappreciative for these wonderful floating matzo balls. They didn't care. So wonderful they floated. The soup, by the way, I made this time, and I think I've done this before. I make the soup in 2 pots. 1 chicken in each pot.
There's supposed to be 2 chickens in every pot?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like a new deal.
1 chicken. Well, actually, there have been times we're only, like not that many people this time. But when I've had the really big crowds, I have made 3 chickens worth of soup. That's a lot of soup. That's 1 huge pot and 1 lesser pot.
You need a hand? Can I help you? Want
I
your
was
head up?
going to turn that up just, not even to 2, just a tad.
Come on.
Are you going to give this video to your mother and tell her how to make matzo balls?
No, I would not dare.
No, I don't think so.
In my house, I don't mean to interrupt the video, in my house, hard matzo balls were a quality. That was a sought-after quality.
Hard?
Yep,
Really?
I like them light.
You should have
but-
known our Aunt Annie.
My mom will roll them for, a minute each.
Oops, okay.
She likes them to sink. I like the floaters.
Oh, no floaters, huh?
I like
Okay.
floaters.
Sinks are good? All right. Okay, hey, it's whatever turns you on. Okay, Samantha, come on, come and watch it.
Jimmy is filming the matzo ball making technique so that it's preserved forever.
And as soon as I'm finished, we'll start the Seder because Jim has to do the Kiddush. Jim is doing everything this time.
She's cooked 3 main courses. The soup, the matzo balls.
I've been cooking for 3 days.
And I'm doing everything.
Pot roast, turkey.
And
She does it where she just barely rolls it. Watch. She just barely rolls it and puts it in.
Okay, and I keep
Makes
my
them lighter.
hands cold with ice
She
cubes.
uses ice instead of
Just
water.
about done here. A couple of little ones. Okay. 1 more, very little one. Out of there.
All right, so that's for Samantha. What else do you make? Where are the rest of the matzo balls?
You're right, I know. Okay, done. Matzo balls. Time to start.
okay, well, let's
Time to make the matzo balls.
just show the.
We can look at it later.
And there they are. All right, on to the Seder.
Oops, we got a little bit of yolk in the white. However,
That's the separating.
it's a metal or glass bowl, but I have the plastic. The recipe, that over there. The recipe calls, my soup is already made, is I just on my table. Fattish sort of soup, so since I skim off the fat anyway.
Okay.
Because I like to dip the measuring cup in, so I'm doing, okay, let me not lose count here.
That's your
okay.
second.
No, that was the first.
Recipe come from?
Came from a little book, which I still have, which I use for all kinds of Jewish holidays. Okay, so now I'm Annie's for the second Seder. My mother didn't really make very much. My Aunt Annie made very famous matzo, really quite an excursion.
Was that Grandpa's sister?
3 sisters, Ethel, Annie, and Ruth. I think the original recipe called, because it's pretty hot, but we want it a little bit hotter. Because my mother did used to make a really great sponge cake. Excellent sponge cake, because it was made with not too much matzo.
My mother made the
Lots of
Manischewitz mix. No, it's
buy any of those. Used to buy this muffin mix occasion. I don't buy it. I only bought the
terrible.
boxes. You know, whatever. I don't keep saying recipe. I had her recipe, which I never really. On the top of the stove, add some more onions and a little smeared it down because it wasn't intellectual enough for her. We'll teach special ed. Okay, now the best way to do this is to get your hand very lightly. Don't roll them much. You can use that even in a mix, is to separate them. Made a thin Seder with Richard's family and they were totally unappreciative. Yeah.
That's like a new deal.
One chicken, well, actually that's one huge pot and one lesser pot. No, I don't think so.
In my house, I don't mean to interrupt the video.
Okay, hey, it's whatever turns you on.
Karen.
Okay. Jim is doing everything this time. Turkey.
And
She does it where she. All right, so that's for Samantha. What else do you make? Where are the rest of the matzo balls?
We can look at it later.